Chapter 3945. Hearing Di Beichen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang also nodded. I'm really curious what kind of things can be produced in this training ground. This world is so magical, anything can be produced. Anything that appears in this place full of dark energy must be related to dark energy. I just hope it's not something evil. Di Beichen sighed. I hope so. Bailey Hongzhuang replied, but this training ground is very large. If this thing is hidden very well, it won't be easy to find it in a short time. Indeed. A smile appeared on Di Beichen's lips. We are just passing by to take a look. If we can find it, that would be the best. If we can't find it, if there really is such a thing, others will definitely notice it. That's true. Bailey Hongzhuang's mood suddenly relaxed a little. There were many cultivators who came to this training ground. Someone would definitely notice it. Xiao Wenyu noticed that Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest were looking around as they walked. He couldn't help but look at Ren Ziheng and asked, Ren Ziheng, what are you looking for? Hearing this, Ren Ziheng smiled slightly. Nothing, we're just looking around. Xiao Wenyu looked at Ren Ziheng suspiciously. Apparently he did not believe his answer, but in his heart he could not understand. There was nothing else in this place. What could Bailey Hongzhuang and her party be looking for? Noticing the suspicious look on Xiao Wenyu's and the rest's faces, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but explain, they're helping me look for something. Xiao Wenyu was a little surprised. I wonder what junior sister Bailey is looking for? Why don't we help look for it too? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Actually, I don't know what I'm looking for either. Hearing this, Xiao Wenyu and the rest couldn't help but be stunned. Disbelief was written all over their faces. Junior sister Bailey, what do you mean? I don't understand. I'm just wondering what kind of medicine can restrain the power of darkness. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. According to my judgment, this thing should be growing in the training grounds. It's a pity that there's nothing else here other than the soil. But I still haven't given up, so I want to look around. Everyone in Penglai Palace already knew that she made healing medicine. This reason was also the most convincing at this moment. Sure enough, when Bailey Hongzhuang said this, Xiao Wenyu and the others immediately understood. I see. Xiao Wenyu showed a look of understanding. Junior sister Bailey is really a genius doctor. No one in Penglai Palace has been able to develop such a healing medicine for so many years. Junior sister Bailey was able to develop it so quickly. I believe you will be able to find a way to completely restrain it. Senior brother Xiao, you flatter me. Bailey Hongzhuang clasped her hands together. I'm also trying to think of a way to find the catalyst. Then I'll also pay attention to it. I hope I can be of help. Thank you. Withdrawing her gaze, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but raise her eyebrows at Di Beichen. Her expression revealed a bit of playfulness and pride. My wife's means of scaring people have become more and more refined recently. Di Beichen praised. Chapter 3946. In the next 2 days, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest were safe and sound. They did not see the skeleton army. Regarding this, no one was too happy, especially Xiao Wenyu and the rest. They wanted to use this opportunity to follow Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest to earn more points, but they did not expect that they would not meet the skeleton army. Naturally, this idea did not succeed. Was a pity. However, during these 2 days they did meet some cultivators from other teams. Unfortunately, they were not from Penglai Palace but from other factions. After everyone met, they did not say anything and just went their separate ways. After all, as long as there were no past grudges, no one was willing to cause more trouble here. I didn't expect our luck to be so good these few days. We didn't meet the skeleton army again. He Bingrue could not help but sigh. Every time she came to this training ground, she couldn't help but be on tenterhooks. After all, the slightest carelessness could cause her to lose her life here. Thus, every time she passed a day without incident, she felt extremely lucky. Maybe the skeleton army knows how powerful junior brother D and the rest are, so they didn't dare to show themselves these 2 days, Xiao Wenyu joked. It's just a coincidence. Di Beichen said, although the probability of meeting the skeleton army here is very high, it's not something you can meet every day. Indeed, but we have been here for so long and have not met the thing that junior sister Bailey is looking for. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled with an indifferent expression. I'm just looking for it on the way. I also know that it's not easy to find this thing. The people from 100 Flowers Gate have not found it after searching for so long, so how could I find it so easily? That's true. The people from 100 Flowers Gate have always been searching for something in this training ground. However, after so long they have not found anything. Could it be that there is nothing? Xiao Wenyu asked curiously. From what I see, I'm afraid there is nothing. He Bingrue said, Not a single blade of grass grows in this place. Other than soil, there are only skeletons and bones. How could there be anything growing here? Su Yingxue also agreed, this does not seem like a place where there would be a guiding herb. It doesn't matter if you can't find it. Bailey Hongzhuang's smile was bright and sunny, and her posture was natural and unrestrained. I just think that everything grows according to its own laws. Usually the guiding drug will appear where it is produced. However, there are always accidents and I can't be sure. Junior sister Bailey, I think you should start from other places. Even if you go around the entire training ground, I'm afraid it will be useless. Su Yingxue looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with jealousy in the depths of her eyes. In the past 2 days, she had been looking for opportunities to communicate with Mo Yunjue. Unfortunately, Mo Yunjue could not be bothered with her. On the contrary, Mo Yunjue treated Bailey Hongzhuang extremely well. Although she did not have any evidence, she instinctively felt that Mo Yunjue treated Bailey Hongzhuang differently. This was because when Mo Yunjue had communicated with Shangguan Yingying, his gaze had not been gentle at all. It was obvious that Mo Yunjue had a better relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang. This was a woman's intuition. Chapter 3947. As she spoke, Su Yingxue couldn't help but give He Bingrui a look. He Bingrui immediately said, "Yeah, it's useless for us to walk around here. Why don't we stop and rest here?" In the past 2 days, in fact, they didn't need to walk around at all, but because Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to find the guiding herbs, they had been wandering around the area, but they didn't have any results. To them, this kind of aimless walking was purely a waste of time. After all, skeletons wouldn't appear during the day at all. Normally they would rest together during the day, but now that they were in a team with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, they had no choice but to follow them. Hearing He Bingrui's words, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but look at Di Beichen. She could also vaguely feel that Su Yingxue and He Bingrui's words were directed at her. However, as a cultivator, walking this path shouldn't be tiring. Moreover, finding the guiding herb was just a side trip. Their main goal was to find the thing that caused the skeletons to evolve. Senior sister He, if you want to rest, then rest here. We'll look around again, Bailey Hongzhuang said. If you want to look around, then look around. The rest of us will rest here. After saying that, He Bingrui directly sat down on the ground. Clearly, she didn't plan to continue searching around here. After He Bingrui sat down, Su Yingxue also sat down. She was a little dissatisfied with Bailey Hongzhuang. Clearly, finding the guiding herb was only Bailey Hongzhuang's task, but she had to drag so many people to help her. It must be known that even if the medicinal catalyst was found, only Bailey Hongzhuang could get the benefits. It was said that this time, Bailey Hongzhuang gave the prescription of the healing medicine to Penglai Palace and obtained a lot of benefits from it. Looking at He Bingrui and Su Yingshue's actions, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't care. She immediately continued walking forward with Di Beichen and the others. They had their own plans, and since Su Yingxue and the rest weren't their teammates, they naturally couldn't force them. Xiao Wenyu felt helpless when he saw what Su Yingxue and the other man did. In fact, he also hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang would be able to find a medicine that could restrain the dark energy. Although they would not be able to gain any benefits from the prescription, if Bailey Hongzhuang could concoct such a medicine, it would be greatly beneficial to them. Moreover, if they could help find her, Bailey Hongzhuang would definitely remember their kindness. Many cultivators were willing to accept the kindness of a genius doctor. However, it was a pity that Su Yingxue and Li Mu were delicate people to begin with. Now that they were quarreling like this, he couldn't ignore his teammates, so he could only stop helplessly. Ren Ziheng and the rest couldn't help looking at one another. Over the past 2 days, everyone had gotten along pretty well, so they hadn't expected Su Yingxue and Qin Wenyan to suddenly throw a tantrum. They were here to help Xiao Wenyu and the others. Since the other party had decided to stop and rest, they let them be. After all, they couldn't be blamed for this. After Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen took a step forward, Ren Ziheng and the rest followed. Chapter 3948. This was because they realized that everyone in Bailey Hongzhuang's team had left with her. From the start to the end, Bailey Hongzhuang did not say a single word. She did not even open her mouth to explain, and the others just followed her. This scene was completely different from what the two of them had imagined. For a moment, the two of them were dumbfounded. When Xiao Wenyu saw this scene, he felt extremely helpless. He had long realized that in this team, although Ren Ziheng was the leader in name, the real leader was not Di Beichen or Mo Yunjue, but Bailey Hongzhuang. There were only 3 Starlight Realm cultivators. Bailey Hongzhuang was Di Beichen's wife, so it was needless to say that Di Beichen would protect her. As a man, Mo Yunjue would naturally give in to Bailey Hongzhuang. Under such circumstances, it was naturally Bailey Hongzhuang who made the decision. Now that it was Bailey Hongzhuang who was looking for something, the people in their team naturally did not have any complaints. All of you are leaving? Su Yingxue could not help but feel anxious when she saw this scene. This was not what she had expected. She only hoped that after her and He Bingrue's suggestion, everyone would agree with them and stay. In this way, Bailey Hongzhuang would lose some face and Su Yingshue's heart would feel a little better. However, not only did she not lose face for Bailey Hongzhuang, she lost face for herself instead. Hearing Su Yingshue's words, Renzime could not help but reply, "We plan to continue searching. You guys can rest here. We will come back later to reconcile with you guys." If all of you leave just like that, what will happen to us? Su Yingxue could not help but ask. What do you mean? This? If we meet with danger, we don't have enough people. When she said this, Renzime and the rest looked at each other and asked, Then what do you think we should do? Su Yingxue was a little embarrassed. She naturally hoped that everyone would stay behind and let Bailey Hongzhuang search alone, but she obviously couldn't say that out loud. What Yingxue means is that we don't have enough people here. If we encounter any danger, we might not be able to handle it. Why don't you leave behind a Star Radiance Realm cultivator? That way we will have more protection. He Bingrue immediately helped Su Yingxue smooth things over. Su Yingxue nodded her head repeatedly and praised He Bingrue's quick thinking. That's right. That's what I meant. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other. There were only 3 of them in the group who were at the Astral Radiance Realm. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang were a pair, so they naturally couldn't be separated. Obviously, the person He Bingrue was referring to was Mo Yunjue. Mo Yunjue was obviously aware of this, but he didn't pay any attention to it. He walked forward and told everyone his decision with his actions. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest also ignored her. Although Su Yingxue didn't have any major problems, she had quite a bit of princess syndrome. There was really no need for them to serve her. Shengguan Yingying and the rest's faces turned cold. They weren't stupid and naturally understood Su Yingshue's original plan. They couldn't help but find it laughable. He was just an outsider, yet he wanted to separate their group. It was simply a fantasy. Chapter 39-49. When Su Yingxue and the rest saw Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest leave without a care, their faces instantly turned ugly. Yingxue Bingrue, what are you doing? Xiao Wenyu frowned and looked at Su Yingxue and He Bingrue in confusion. He couldn't understand their actions at all. Nothing, I just feel that it's meaningless to walk around like this. Rather than that, why don't we rest here for a while so that we can be in better condition at night? Su Yingxue said angrily. When she thought of Mo Yunjue's cold appearance, she couldn't help but feel gloomy. She was about to die from anger. Hearing this, Xiao Wenyu sighed, There's no point in telling me these excuses. Isn't it all for junior brother Mo? From what I see, junior brother Mo isn't someone who can be moved so easily. I think you shouldn't waste your efforts. As a man, he understood how a man felt the most. Although Xiao Wenyu wasn't familiar with Mo Yunjue, he could tell from Mo Yunjue's actions that he wasn't interested in Su Yingxue at all. Otherwise he wouldn't have acted like this. How do you know? He Bingrue retorted, Maybe Mo Yunjue is cold on the outside but warm on the inside. He just doesn't show it. That's all I have to say. If you don't believe me, I can't do anything about it. I just hope that you don't keep hitting a wall. Furthermore, if you really like a man, your actions won't make him like you. On the contrary, you'll only make him hate you. I advise you not to use this method in the future. After saying this, Xiao Wenyu didn't wait for He Bingrue and Su Yingxue to reply. He immediately closed his eyes and started cultivating. He was very clear that it was meaningless to argue with women. He just said what he wanted to say. Seeing Xiao Wenyu like this, Su Yingxue and He Bingrue looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with indignation. I didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to have such a high position in their team. Our actions have indeed miscalculated, He Bingrue couldn't help but say. Su Yingxue nodded, Indeed, but I believe that we will find a way. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest walked a distance away, Shengguan Yingying couldn't help but say, Su Yingxue and He Bingrue really think that they're important. They actually want us to stay behind to accompany them. Dream. I don't have a good influence on them to begin with. And now they did this. Could it be that they think that in our hearts, her position is more important than Hong? Renzime also nodded helplessly. Su Yingxue indeed has the temper of a young lady. The things she does make people feel helpless. In my opinion, we should just ignore them and not go back. It's best if they encounter the skeleton army at night. Let's see if she can still throw a tantrum, Sheng Wanningying said coldly. That's that. Xiao Hei nodded her head in agreement. She then jumped onto Mo Yunjue. Mo Yunjue, I don't have a good impression of Suing Xue. Don't fall for her. Xiao Hei. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately pulled Xiao Hei back. Why are you getting involved in this matter? Chapter 3950. Then we can be at ease, Baisher couldn't help but say. Otherwise, Suing Xue and He Bingrue will be two different problems and we won't have any peace in the future. At that moment, Sheng Wanningying couldn't help but say, what Baisher said makes sense. If we want to find someone, we should find someone who is more sensible. One of them has the temper of a missy and the other wants to see the world burn. With these two people in the team, our team will definitely be divided. Indeed, I think Suing Xue wants to split our team. I really hope they can go back soon. It's really troublesome to stay in the same team. Ren Zimei shrugged her shoulders. Even though she had to help Suing Xue and the rest due to their relationship as fellow sect members, Xiao Wenyu and the rest were still fine, but Suing Xue and He Bingrue didn't feel that they had been saved at all. On the contrary, they even thought of themselves as important people. She didn't have a good impression of these girls who were always pampered by others. After interacting with them for 2 days, she felt even more strongly. She couldn't understand what they were thinking at all. Di Beichen and the others looked at the speechless faces of Sheng Wanningying and Ren Zimei, and a smile appeared in their eyes. As men, they naturally wouldn't talk about it. However, they had to admit that Suing Xue and He Bingrue were really troublesome. If we can meet other teams, let's let them form a team. I believe the other teams will be very happy, Ren Ziheng couldn't help but say. Actually, he didn't expect Suing Xue and He Bingrue to be so troublesome. After all, everyone was willing to form a team with them because they cared about his reputation and situation. It was because of this that he felt even more embarrassed. Otherwise, they wouldn't have bothered about this trouble at all. I hope so, Sheng Wanningying sighed. Speaking of which, it's weird. We've been wandering around here for so long, but why haven't we met a single team? This place is close to the center. There aren't many cultivator teams that can come here, so it's normal that we haven't met any, Chu Jinfeng replied. Suing Xue is really something. Since she knows it's dangerous to stay here with her abilities, why didn't she just go to the periphery? Wouldn't that be more convenient? As she spoke, Sheng Wanningying couldn't help but pat her head. I almost forgot that their main purpose of teaming up with us is still Yunju. Hearing this, Mo Yunjue's expression revealed a hint of helplessness. Haha, let's not talk about this, when Xiren laughed. Now that there are only people in our team, it's a good time to relax. We've been looking for it for so long, but we still haven't found it. If this thing really exists, would it be closer to the center? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask. As soon as she said this, everyone's expression couldn't help but pause. After thinking about it carefully, they also felt that what Bailey Hongzhuang said was very possible. That's quite possible. Ren Ziheng nodded, but we are now quite close to the center. If we continue to go in, there will be skeletons everywhere. Even if our team goes in, it will be very dangerous. Chapter 3951. We have to take our time to consider this matter. Ren Ziheng's expression was rather solemn. If we want to go there, cultivators below the Starlight Realm like us won't be able to. Furthermore, we can't leave Xiao Wenyu and the rest behind for the time being. After listening to Ren Ziheng's consideration, Bailey Hongzhuang also understood that it was indeed unrealistic to go there to take a look. Unless Ren Ziheng and the rest all stayed behind and only the 3 of them went. Since that's the case, why don't we go and take a look next time? If that thing really exists, it probably won't disappear anytime soon. Bailey Hongzhuang said. If they wanted to go, it would be best for the 3 of them to go alone. Now that they were in the inner part of the training ground, if the 3 of them were not around, Xiren and the rest would be in great danger. It was better to put this plan aside for the time being. All right. Di Beichen nodded. Since these skeletons have been evolving for such a long time, there's no need for us to be in a hurry for the time being. Let's walk around nearby. If we don't find it, we'll come back next time. Junior brother D, junior sister Bailey, we've dragged you down. Ren Ziheng's face was somewhat apologetic as he spoke. Ever since they met Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest, logically speaking, they were the senior brothers and sisters. They should be the ones taking care of Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest. However, in reality, ever since they first met, not only did they not help Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest much, it was instead Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest who had been taking care of them all this time. This was something that they really felt abnormally ashamed of. Hearing Ren Ziheng's words, Di Beichen could not help but say, "Senior brother Ren, what are you saying? How are we a burden? If you didn't team up with us, we wouldn't know anything about this training ground. That would be really troublesome." Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest nodded. "That's right. If you didn't lead us, we would be like headless flies here. I'm afraid we wouldn't even be able to find the route." After hearing Di Beichen's words, Ren Ziheng's group of 3, who were originally filled with guilt, felt much better. They understood that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others said this to not make them feel ashamed, but they also knew that the other party really treated them with sincerity and never felt that they were troublesome. They couldn't help but feel gratified. "It's good that you don't mind. Actually, we are very sorry in our hearts," Chu Jinfeng could not help but say. Everyone smiled faintly and continued their search. Regardless of whether they could find it or not, they took it as a chance to relax and didn't want to go back too early. Xiao Wenyu and the rest sat down to rest. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest had left for some time, Su Yingxue and He Bingrui couldn't help but examine their surroundings. They wondered why Mo Yunjue and the rest hadn't returned after so long. "Bingrui, do you think they won't come back?" Su Yingshue's expression was rather ugly. It was fine if her suggestion failed, but if Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest didn't come back just like that, their situation would be terrible. Hearing this, He Bingrui pondered for a moment before shaking her head. "I don't think so. They agreed to form a team with us. Before they meet any other teams, they probably won't abandon us." Chapter 3952. I don't know why they left for so long. It's been almost 4 hours. Did they encounter any danger? He Bingrui's expression was complicated. Logically speaking, the other party shouldn't have left just like that, but wasn't it a little too long? Hearing Su Yingxue and He Bingrui's conversation, Xiao Wenyu opened his eyes and said, "They teamed up with us because they wanted to help us, but you guys just had to cause trouble. Even if they really abandoned us and left, it's still reasonable." In fact, Xiao Wenyu was also very helpless. He wanted to use this opportunity to build a good relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest. After all, Ren Ziheng had gained many benefits after becoming good friends with Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest. Not only that, Ren Ziheng and the rest also became closer to Instructor Yi. According to his judgment, the 3 of them were not far away from getting contracted beasts. This was their advantage. Moreover, when Bailey Hongzhuang developed the healing medicine, she gave it to them immediately. That was why Ren Ziheng was able to survive that dangerous situation. He was also in the team at that time and witnessed the power of the healing medicine with his own eyes. Ever since that incident, he was very envious. It was a pity that he didn't have such an opportunity. Now that the opportunity had finally come, it was ruined by Su Yingxue and Su Yingxue. One could imagine how depressed he was. However, Su Yingxue had mastered the art of sound attack. He had spent a lot of effort to recruit her into the team, so he couldn't give up on her. He could only watch as the opportunity slipped away from him. "Senior brother Xiao, what do you mean?" He Bingrui frowned. "Actually, Yingxue and I didn't do anything. Both of you are well aware of what the 2 of you are thinking. I won't say anything more. However, if they return later, both of you should obediently cooperate with them and don't cause any more trouble." Xiao Wenyu sighed and said. Hearing Xiao Wenyu's words, Su Yingshue's expression turned ugly. "Senior brother Xiao, we didn't cause any trouble at all. Could it be that we were wrong? I've been wandering around aimlessly for the past 2 days. It's nothing more than a waste of time. There's nothing wrong with me wanting to take a break." Seeing that Su Yingxue was still unwilling to admit her inner thoughts, Xiao Wenyu couldn't help but shake his head. "It's your business that you like Mo Yunjue, but since Mo Yunjue is a member of their team, aren't you making things difficult for Mo Yunjue by doing this?" Xiao Wenyu really couldn't understand these women. Not only was this way of pursuing people unlikable, but it also made people even more unwilling to pay attention to them. The moment he said that, Su Yingxue couldn't help but hold her breath, suppressing the words she was about to say. In fact, she had already realized this. Ever since she had made this suggestion, Mo Yunjue had looked at her with an even colder gaze. Not only that, it seemed that even the other cultivators in Bailey Hongzhuang's team had some opinions about her, which made her very depressed. However, since things had already developed to this point, she had no other choice but to stubbornly deny it. Chapter 3953. Listening to the footsteps, Su Yingxue and the others could not help but have a touch of joy on their faces. Obviously, the people of Bailey Hongzhuang had returned, and they could finally breathe a sigh of relief. After all, it was already quite late and the sky would turn dark in a few hours. If Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest didn't return, they would be in danger. If they encountered the skeleton army, they wouldn't be able to handle it with their strength. However, when they turned around, they didn't see Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest. Instead, they met another team. The joy on Su Yingshua's face disappeared and was replaced by dejection. If Mo Yunjua didn't return, it would be impossible for her to get close to him in the future. Junior sister Su, why did you reveal such an expression when you saw me? Are you very disappointed? The other party noticed Su Yingshua's expression and couldn't help but ask. No. Su Yingxua pouted. She was indeed very disappointed, but she didn't want to admit it. Xiao Wenyu also saw them and a smile appeared on his face. Lin Mingtao, I didn't expect to meet a team from the same sect here. How delightful. I also didn't expect to meet you guys here. Lin Mingtao smiled faintly. After looking at the situation of Xiao Wenyu and the others, he couldn't help but say, Xiao Wenyu, there's something wrong with your team. Why are there only 6 of you left? Hearing Lin Mingtao's words, Xiao Wenyu couldn't help but sigh. Our luck is very bad. We were surrounded by skeletons on the first day and 4 of us died. Now there are only 6 of us left. Only then did Lin Mingtao understand. So that's how it is. Then your luck is really terrible. But now that there are only 6 of you left, why are you still staying here? Isn't it very dangerous? Lin Mingtao frowned. Why don't you guys form a team with us? That way your safety will be more guaranteed. As he said that, Lin Mingtao's gaze couldn't help but land on Su Yingxua. Su Yingxua was a very famous beauty in Penglai Inner Hall. Furthermore, the sound attack she had grasped was very effective in restraining liches. She could be said to be both talented and beautiful, so there were quite a number of people pursuing her. He was also interested in Su Yingxua. If he could woo her, it would be a good thing. Now that she was in trouble, he would undoubtedly be able to pull their relationship closer if he helped her. Furthermore, with this chance to interact, he might be able to take a step forward with Su Yingxua. Previously, he had also expressed his intentions to Su Yingxua, but Su Yingxua had never responded. Why not take this chance to let Su Yingxua know how powerful he was? After all, strength was a must if he wanted to capture the heart of a beauty. Lin Mingtao thought his words would definitely make Su Yingxua and the rest happy, but the situation was different from what he had imagined. Su Yingxua and the rest were very indifferent, as if they didn't feel any joy from his suggestion. He couldn't help but feel that it was strange. Logically speaking, in such a situation, the most desirable thing would be to find an ally, so why wasn't the other party happy? Chapter 3954. Hearing the footsteps, Su Yingxua and the rest couldn't help but turn around to look at the people who had come. As expected, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest had returned. When Lin Mingtao noticed that Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest were also there, a hint of astonishment appeared in his eyes. When he saw that Su Yingxua and the rest had an indifferent expression, he understood a little more. No wonder Su Yingxua and the rest weren't too happy when he suggested forming a team. It turned out that they already had a goal in mind. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest were in the limelight when they returned this time. Even Duan Huali had been forced to his death by them, so everyone knew that they had already reached the Starlight Realm. In comparison, his team couldn't be compared to Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest. At the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest also noticed the appearance of Lin Mingtao and the rest, and their eyes instantly lit up. Wasn't the reason why they had been in a team with Su Yingxua and the rest because they were worried about their safety? Now that other teams had appeared, if they were willing to form a team with them, they wouldn't have to continue staying together. So you guys already have someone to team up with. Lin Mingtao couldn't help but laugh. He then turned around and cupped his hands towards Di Baichen and the rest. Ren Ziheng, I didn't expect to meet you guys here. A smile appeared on Ren Ziheng's face. It's good to meet you guys here. Hearing that, Lin Mingtao was slightly stunned. What do you mean? I didn't know you wanted to meet me so much. Ren Ziheng chuckled. Xiao Wenyu and the rest needed a team to form a team, and we were also helping to find one. Now that you guys are here, isn't it just nice? Oh. Lin Mingtao sized up Ren Ziheng and Xiao Wenyu with an astonished gaze, thinking to himself that the situation was completely different from what he had imagined. He originally thought that they had already formed a team, but from the current situation, it seemed like Xiao Wenyu was very willing to form a team with Ren Ziheng and the rest. But Ren Ziheng and the rest had no intention of forming a team with Xiao Wenyu's team. If he was not wrong, that should be the case. As Ren Ziheng's voice fell, Xiao Wenyu felt a wave of helplessness in his heart. He had already expected such a situation to occur. From the moment Lin Mingtao appeared, He had hoped that Lin Mingtao and the others would leave as soon as possible. Once Ren Ziheng and the others saw them appear, they would definitely make such a decision. But they just appeared and he'd asked them to leave, so it was undoubtedly a little impolite. But it just so happened that things were so coincidental. Ren Ziheng and the others had returned at this moment, and this situation was within his expectations. Although they were somewhat unwilling, there was nothing they could do. After all, they were the ones in the wrong. Compared to Xiao Wenyu, who had expected this, Su Yingshua's expression became extremely ugly. She didn't want to be separated from Mo Yunjue just like that. Why? Su Yingxue couldn't help but ask. Hearing Su Yingshue's words, Ren Zimei said, "Junior sister Su, we formed a team because there were fewer people in your team and it wasn't safe here. Now that your friends have appeared, it's naturally more suitable for you to form a team. We can also go to other places to take a look so as to not tire you out." Chapter 3955. Su Yingxue originally wanted to retort, but when she heard Ren Zimei's last sentence, her face couldn't help but turn ugly. Obviously, the last sentence was referring to the fact that she had to stop and rest. It seemed like the other party's dissatisfaction towards her was because of this matter. Thinking about it carefully, what Xiao Wenyu said before was right. "Senior sister, what do you mean?" He Bingrui couldn't help but frown. "You guys have been wandering around for the past 2 days to help Bailey Hongzhuang find things. We feel a little tired and want to stop and rest. Is that not okay?" Seeing He Bingrui actually questioning her, Ren Zimei's face instantly turned gloomy. However, she still controlled her temper and didn't get angry. "I didn't say there was a problem. It's just that your method is different from our team's. Instead of both parties feeling tired, why not split up and find a more suitable team? Isn't that better?" This He Bingrui is really biting Lu Dongbin's hand. Previously we helped them for 2 days. Not only did they not show any gratitude, they are actually criticizing senior sister Ren. What a joke. Shengguan Yingying's eyes shone with disgust. She hated this kind of ungrateful people the most. Their way of doing things was very annoying. "Seems like our decision was right." When Xiren couldn't help but spread out his hands, "Luckily someone has appeared to pick up the mess. We don't have to bother with them in a while." "A rat's poop spoils the whole pot of porridge," Ao Lingxiao couldn't help but say. Speaking of which, there wasn't anything wrong with Xiao Wenyu and the rest, so he didn't feel uncomfortable teaming up with them. The only troublesome ones in the team were Su Yingxue and He Bingrui, the 2 girls. Hearing Ao Lingxiao's words, Shengguan Yingying couldn't help but burst out laughing. She turned her head and gave Ao Lingxiao a thumbs up. "What you said is really reasonable. You hit the nail on the head. I admire you." Ao Lingxiao couldn't help but laugh. There's no other way. After thinking about it, this is the most appropriate description. Although Su Yingxue didn't know what Shengguan Yingying and the rest were talking about, she noticed that they were still laughing at such a time. Her mood couldn't help but become even worse. Could it be that Shengguan Yingying and the rest were actually so happy to be separated from them? "Senior sister Ren, I have always been very respectful to you, and I didn't do anything wrong during this entire process. Isn't it too heartbreaking for you to despise me like this?" Su Yingxue said coldly. Seeing Su Yingshue's unwillingness to let her go, Bailey Hongzhuang's brows slightly furrowed and a trace of impatience in the depths of her eyes. "Senior sister Su, senior sister Ren doesn't dislike you." Bailey Hongzhuang spoke up. "She to is to Yingshue's to her to Yingxue? To Ido Yingshue's, not to Ying Yingsu. To Ido." Once she said that, the expressions of Di Beichen and the rest changed. In the next instant, just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to continue speaking, Di Beichen pulled her behind him and looked at Su Yingxue coldly. Chapter 3956. Di Beichen didn't have a good impression of Su Yingxue to begin with, but he only felt that a girl's temper was a little troublesome, so he didn't pay much attention to it. After all, they wouldn't be in a team for long, so they would have to separate sooner or later. However, he never thought that Su Yingxue would actually dare to make things difficult for Bailey Hongzhuang. If it had been anything else, it would have been fine, but to dare speak to his wife like that was something he would never allow. Su Yingxue never thought that Di Beichen, who was usually very easy to get along with, would actually say such ruthless words. For a moment, she was stunned on the spot, unable to react. When Xiao Wenyu saw the conflict between Su Yingxue and Di Beichen, he couldn't help but have a bad feeling in his heart. It was fine if they had just separated, but he never thought that such a thing would happen at the very last moment. Di Beichen's serious look didn't seem like he was joking. Even though he wasn't familiar with Di Beichen and the rest, he knew that Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang had an extremely good relationship. He didn't know if Su Yingshua's brain had gone haywire, but she actually dared to go against Bailey Hongzhuang. Wasn't she just looking for trouble? Not to mention Di Baichen's power, Bailey Hongzhuang was also a cultivator of the Starlight Realm. If she offended Bailey Hongzhuang, once Bailey Hongzhuang got angry and killed her, it would be something that no one could control. Junior brother Di, calm down first. Xiao Wenyu immediately stood in between Di Baichen and Su Yingxue, stopping their conflict from erupting. Junior sister Bailey, this matter is all Su Yingshue's fault. You are a magnanimous person, so don't hold it against her. She has such a temper and doesn't care about anyone when she speaks, so it's easy for her to offend people. I apologize to you on her behalf. Xiao Wenyu looked at Bailey Hongzhuang apologetically. He knew very well that whether this matter could be resolved or not depended on Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude. Di Baichen was protecting Bailey Hongzhuang. If Bailey Hongzhuang cared about this matter, there would be no room for negotiation. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Xiao Wenyu indifferently. Every injustice had its perpetrator and every debt its debtor. She was not a person who liked to get angry easily. Naturally, she would not vent her anger on Xiao Wenyu. Senior brother Xiao, you have such a troublemaker in your team. You must be having a hard time being the team leader. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Xiao Wenyu's expression was a little helpless. For a moment he didn't know what to say. His eyes could not help but look at Ren Ziheng. He only hoped that Ren Ziheng could also come out and be a peacemaker. He could see that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others still valued Ren Ziheng very much. However, Ren Ziheng ignored Xiao Wenyu's gaze. He already felt very guilty towards Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest. Now that Su Yingxue had done such a thing, if he still wanted to be a peacemaker, then there was something wrong with his brain. Di Baichen's expression was cold. I won't say anything else. First, I apologize. Su Yingxue stood on the spot in a daze. She had only said those words in a moment of anger. She didn't expect that it would lead to such an outcome. Di Baichen and the rest's attitude made her feel a chill in her heart. She didn't know what to do and could only look at Mo Yunjue for help. Chapter 3957. When Mo Yunjue noticed that Su Yingxue was actually looking at him with a pleading gaze, the coldness in his eyes became even more intense. He only wanted to protect Bailey Hongzhuang, yet Bailey Hongzhuang had been wrong because of him. One could imagine the anger in his heart. In Penglai Palace, there were quite a number of women who had a good impression of him, but the only one who could make him so disgusted was Su Yingxue. If you don't apologize, then I'll just kill you, Mo Yunjue said indifferently, his deep eyes filled with coldness and disgust. Once he said that, everyone present couldn't help but gasp. Their astonished gazes landed on Mo Yunjue. No one had expected him to take Su Yingshue's life the moment he opened his mouth. When Ziren and Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but look at each other, their gazes filled with astonishment. They had long known that Mo Yunjue, as the young master of Elysium, was naturally decisive in killing people. He could even be said to kill without batting an eyelid, but they hadn't expected him to be so decisive. No matter what, Su Yingxue was a woman who admired him. Normally, men would be more tolerant of women who admired them, but they had never seen this in Mo Yunjue. On one hand, it proved that he indeed didn't have any good impression of Su Yingxue. On the other hand, it also proved how important Bailey Hongzhuang was in his heart. When Ren Ziheng and the rest saw that Bailey Hongzhuang had been bullied, Di Baichen had immediately stood up. His attitude of protecting his wife was extremely obvious, but they hadn't expected Mo Yunjue to be so ruthless as well. Although Su Yingshue's way of doing things was wrong, it was only a verbal conflict with Bailey Hongzhuang. Di Baichen and Mo Yunjue had the intention to kill because of this. This wasn't a normal kind of protection, it was a reverse scale. Su Yingxue was completely dumbfounded as she stared at Mo Yunjue in a daze. It was one thing for Di Baichen to show such an attitude since Bailey Hongzhuang was his wife, but for Mo Yunjue to do the same, it was too unbelievable. She had been hoping that Mo Yunjue would open his mouth to help her end the situation, but never had she expected that not only did Mo Yunjue not have the slightest intention of helping her out, he even said that he would take her life. An indescribable gloominess exploded in Su Yingshue's heart. She had never expected such an outcome. She only felt that her passion had been extinguished and that someone had ruthlessly stabbed her heart with a knife. That kind of uncomfortable feeling made it hard for her to breathe. At that instant, Su Yingxue only felt her face burning. Everything she had done before was like a few ruthless slaps to her face. She thought that she could be different in Mo Yunjue's heart, but Mo Yunjue's words told her deeply that not only was she not different, she couldn't even be compared to a stranger. Thinking back to how she had tried to curry favor with him, Xue really wanted to dig a hole in the ground. This kind of feeling was even more unbearable than killing her. Mo Yunjue, aren't you going overboard? Bingrui looked at Mo Yunjue in disbelief. Although she had always thought that he was a very cold person, she had never expected him to be so cold-blooded. Xue is so nice to you and you actually say that you want her life. Chapter 3958. Can't I? Bingrui was stunned on the spot, unable to vent her anger. Facing Mo Yunjue's cold eyes, she could only feel that she couldn't speak. It was clearly a reasonable thing, but Mo Yunjue's question made her feel as if she was in the wrong. That was because his eyes were filled with wind, snow and ice. There wasn't the slightest bit of warmth, making people feel as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. For some reason they felt an indescribable pressure. At that moment not only Bingrui, but even Xiao Wenyu and the rest were dumbfounded. Previously, it was widely rumored that the newcomer Mo Yunjue had a cold personality. After interacting with him for 2 days they had the same feeling. However, it wasn't until this moment that they realized that not only was Mo Yunjue cold, but he was also cold-blooded. After hearing Mo Yunjue's words, Xue's gaze couldn't help but fall on Bailey Hongzhuang. As a woman she had sharp intuition. Long ago she had already felt that Mo Yunjue treated Bailey Hongzhuang differently, but she couldn't find any evidence. Until the moment Mo Yunjue stood up for Bailey Hongzhuang, her feeling became even more obvious. That was because Mo Yunjue had shown that he cared too much. Previously, no matter what happened, Mo Yunjue had always been cold and indifferent. If Mo Yunjue cared a lot about each of his friends, then why didn't Mo Yunjue say anything when she spoke up for Ren Zimei? But when she spoke up for Bailey Hongzhuang, Mo Yunjue immediately stood up and spoke so ruthlessly. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang who was being protected by Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue, Xue only felt a wave of jealousy. Bailey Hongzhuang already had Di Beichen, so why was Mo Yunjue still protecting her like this? Compared to her own situation, was Bailey Hongzhuang really that good? Mo Yunjue, I only verbally offended Bailey Hongzhuang, do you have to be like this? Xue looked at Mo Yunjue with burning eyes. Her eyes were already bloodshot with tears, but she stubbornly refused to let them fall. Of course. Facing Xue's question, Mo Yunjue's answer was even more natural. To him, no one was more important than Bailey Hongzhuang. As long as someone dared to bully Bailey Hongzhuang, they would be his enemy. Everyone looked at this scene in a daze. Mo Yunjue's answer made them feel an indescribable discomfort. Logically speaking, an ordinary person would refute such a question, but Mo Yunjue had admitted it without any concealment, making them unable to continue speaking. When Xiao Wenyu saw the conflict becoming more and more intense, he immediately pulled Xue's sleeve and said, Junior Sister Su, stop fooling around. This matter was originally your fault, so you should quickly apologize. Xue stubbornly looked at Mo Yunjue and bit her lips tightly, unwilling to apologize. She was unwilling because once she apologized to Bailey Hongzhuang, she would never be able to raise her head in front of Bailey Hongzhuang for the rest of her life. She simply couldn't endure such a feeling. Seeing Xue's attitude, Di Beichen's gaze turned cold and he said indifferently, looks like you don't want to apologize. Chapter 3959. Junior Brother Di, please don't be angry. Xue already knows her mistake. Xiao Wenyu hurriedly spoke up, his expression filled with nervousness. He was about to die from depression. Before Bailey Hongzhuang and the others came back, he had already warned Xue not to make trouble without reason. He didn't expect that Xue didn't listen to his words at all. Not only did she not give up, but on the contrary she became even more serious, so that things had developed to this point. Di Beichen and the others were now a team that could not be provoked in this Penglai palace. As long as one had a little eyesight, they would understand that they absolutely could not offend them. Otherwise they would only be looking for trouble. Originally it was fine if he couldn't use this chance to build a good relationship with Di Beichen and the rest, but now not only could he not do so, he had even offended them. This was terrible. Junior Sister Su, quickly apologize. Xiao Wenyu turned around and gave Xue a look. Compared to his previous concern, his current attitude had turned into a warning. He lowered his voice and said, if you still don't apologize, I won't be able to protect you. Xue was a member of their team, so he naturally wanted to protect her. However, if Xue continued to be so stubborn, he naturally wouldn't offend Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest for her. This was because losing Suing Xue was just a small loss to their team. However, if they offended Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest, it could very well be a disaster. Between the two, no matter who it was, they would choose to give up on Suing Xue. After hearing Xiao Wenyu's words, Suing Xue's eyes turned even redder. She only felt that she had suffered a great grievance, but now, everyone was forcing her to apologize. She wasn't willing to apologize, nor was she willing to lower her head to Bailey Hongzhuang. Otherwise she would feel that she would forever lose to Bailey Hongzhuang. Senior brother Xiao, I understand your good intentions, but since Suing Xue doesn't accept it, you don't have to waste your efforts anymore. Di Beichen said slowly. His eyes suddenly became sharp. Since we can't talk about reconciliation then? When He Bingrui saw that the situation had taken a turn for the worse, she hurriedly said to Suing Xue, "Ing Xue, they aren't joking. Apologize quickly or else they might really kill you." Suing Xue was originally going down a dead end, but after being shaken by He Bingrui, she came back to her senses. As soon as she raised her head, she saw Di Beichen's cold and sharp eyes. She couldn't help but shiver. Only now did she remember to be afraid. "I apologize," Suing Xue hurriedly said. No matter how unwilling she was, her life was naturally more important at a time when her life was at stake. When Xiao Wenyu and the rest saw that Suing Xue finally understood the situation, they let out a sigh of relief. At least the situation hadn't developed to the worst stage. Lin Mingtao originally wanted to use this opportunity to woo Suing Xue, but after seeing this scene he didn't dare to make a sound and disturb them. In the inner hall, in terms of seniority, they were naturally higher than Di Beichen and the rest. However, in terms of limelight and potential, they were all inferior. Di Beichen and the rest were all favored by Lord Long and the Hall Master. Offending them wouldn't end well. Chapter 3960. After all, even if Suing Xue had apologized, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest would definitely still hate her. Beauties were the best, but they weren't as important as their own benefits. Even though there weren't many cultivators who knew how to use sound attacks, it wasn't like there weren't any. However, if they were to offend 3 Starlight Realm cultivators, they wouldn't be able to eat or sleep in peace. Listening to Suing Xue's words, Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue both looked at her coldly. They didn't say anything, obviously waiting for her to apologize. Seeing this, even if Suing Xue didn't dare, she could only lower her head and apologize. "I'm sorry." No sincerity. Seeing that Suing Xue's voice was too soft, Shengguan Ying said coldly. Her attitude towards Suing Xue was getting worse and worse, so she naturally wouldn't be polite with her words. She actually dared to make things difficult for Hongzhuang. She was really courting death. Bailey Hongzhuang also looked at Suing Xue indifferently. She didn't have many thoughts about Suing Xue and only felt that this girl had the temper of a missy, thinking that everyone had to give in to her. Since that was the case, she would let Suing Xue understand that not everyone had to give in to her. If she did something wrong, she had to bear the responsibility. She had never liked this kind of girl who threw a tantrum, and the repeated incidents had already made her lose her patience. Now she felt disgusted. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest had no intention of letting her off, Suing Xue couldn't help but raise her voice and say again, "Junior Sister Bailey, I'm sorry." Xiao Wenyu also stood out. "Junior Sister Bailey, Junior Sister Su has already apologized. She already knows her mistake, so please forgive her." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her head and looked at Xiao Wenyu before turning her gaze towards Suing Xue. "I originally didn't have the intention to bicker with you, but you have to be clear that no one has to endure your missy temper. Although I don't know where your sense of superiority comes from, no matter if it's your strength, identity, or appearance, you are mediocre, yet your temper is so big. Let me give you a piece of advice: rein in your temper as soon as possible. Otherwise you might not even know how you died in the future." After saying this, Bailey Hongzhuang retracted her gaze and turned to Di Beichen and the rest. "Let's go." Di Beichen and the rest nodded their heads when they heard this, then turned and left with Bailey Hongzhuang. As for Suing Xue, they felt an indescribable sense of disgust whenever they looked at her. After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Suing Xue's face was already ugly to the extreme, but because of the other party's strength, she could only endure it. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's contempt for her, she was simply angry. B. Strength, identity, appearance. Bailey Hongzhuang had brought up these 3 points without a doubt to mock her. However, looking at Suing Xue's appearance, Xiao Wenyu wasn't willing to say anything more. He had already said what needed to be said, and he was also extremely dissatisfied with Suing Xue. He was considered an old senior brother with a pretty good position in Penglai Palace, but now he had to apologize for suing Xue, damaging his relationship with Ren Ziheng. The value of the loss was too great. Chapter 3961. Compared to Bailey Hongzhuang, suing Xue was indeed a far cry. Seeing Xiao Wenyu ignoring her, suing Xue instantly looked at Lin Mingtao unwillingly. Senior brother Lin, am I wrong? Lin Mingtao smiled awkwardly and said, Junior sister Su Xiao Wenyu, we still have some matters to attend to, so we'll leave first. After saying that, Lin Mingtao cupped his hands towards Xiao Wenyu and gave a signal to the cultivators in the team before turning around to leave. Seeing this, suing Xue couldn't help but be stunned. She hurriedly said, Senior brother Lin, didn't you say you wanted to form a team with us? Why are you leaving just like that? I suddenly remembered that I have some urgent matters to attend to, so I won't be staying here for the time being. We plan to return first. Lin Mingtao smiled faintly. Goodbye, junior sister pig. As he said that, Lin Mingtao left in a hurry. Since he had already decided to keep a distance from suing Xue and the rest, he naturally wouldn't continue to form a team with them. Otherwise, if Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest met them here, they would probably think that they were in the same group. Then, it would really be hard to explain. Seeing Lin Mingtao leave so quickly, suing Xue couldn't help but frown. I didn't hear senior brother Lin say that he had something to do, so why is he behaving so strangely now? Hearing suing Xue's muttering, Xiao Wenyu and the other cultivators in the team sneered inwardly. This woman was really a pig's head. Now, everyone could see that Lin Mingtao didn't have anything important to do. He was just avoiding them, so he left quickly. However, suing Xue couldn't see through this. She was simply too stupid. As she said that, suing Xue couldn't help but look at Xiao Wenyu. Senior brother Xiao, senior brother Lin, they left just like that. What should we do? I'm afraid it won't be easy to find other teams here. Let's go back too, Xiao Wenyu said weakly. Xiao Wenyu said weakly. He suddenly regretted inviting suing Xue to their team. Otherwise this wouldn't have happened. We're going back just like that? Suing Xue asked unwillingly. If you want to continue staying here, I don't have any objections. Xiao Wenyu cast an indifferent glance at suing Xue and immediately turned to leave. It was already late, and if they continued to waste time here, the 6 of them wouldn't be able to defeat the skeletons if they met them at night. He believed that if he met Bailey Hongzhuang and the others again tonight, he was afraid that the other party would not save him again. So it would be safer to leave earlier. It was safer. The other cultivators immediately followed behind Xiao Wenyu and left. They were speechless to the extreme. If it wasn't for the fact that there were too few of them, they really wouldn't have bothered with suing Xue and Li Mu. And no matter how unwilling she was to leave the group, to leave the rest and the rest and the rest, the group, the rest and the rest. So she and the An and the rest. And the An and the rest and the rest. And she and the others, they and An and the rest, to leave, leaving and the An and the them. Fortunately, he Bingrue was with her. And An and the Lin. And the to be. To Lin and Lin's. Was? Chapter 3962. At the mention of suing Xue, Bailey Hongzhuang was not in a good mood. She sighed and said, sooner or later she will be taught a lesson because of her temper. Although the majority of cultivators with strength had a temper, this temper was definitely not for cultivators who were stronger than them. They did not make a move, but it did not mean that the people suing Xue provoked in the future would also not make a move. If suing Xue could not change this habit, she would suffer a great loss sooner or later. Of course, she also did not think that suing Xue could change this habit. Shengguan Yingying nodded. She is safer in Penglai Palace Hall. If she goes out, who knows how many enemies she will provoke with her temper. In my opinion, this fellow's temper is simply more annoying than Chu Yunyao's. Although Chu Yunyao's actions were overboard, there was at least one reason. This suing Xue completely had the temper of a young miss. She had no ability and still had a big temper, which was even more unacceptable. Since we have already separated from them, let's just treat them as if they never existed. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. It's still more comfortable with our own team. That's true. Xiren nodded. When we are with them, we have to pay more attention to what we say. It's really troublesome. It's not early now. Let's find a place nearby to rest and recover to our best condition. If the skeleton army appears at night, we can also fight with them in our best condition, Di Beichen said. Hearing this, everyone agreed. They had not encountered the skeleton army for 2 days in a row. With their current location, this could be considered very lucky. As for whether they would have such good luck again tonight, no one was sure. Therefore they had to be prepared. Casually finding a place with a wide view, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest stopped to rest. The sky gradually turned from bright to dark. After a period of rest, everyone had recovered to their best condition. However, at this moment, Rin Zimei was surprised to find a team in front of them. However, when they saw the people in the group clearly, a wisp of surprise could not help but surface in their eyes. Isn't this Lin Mingtao's team? Rin Zimei looked at the newcomers in surprise. Why didn't they team up with Xiao Wenyu's team? In his line of sight, only Lin Mingtao and the others were walking over. Xiao Wenyu and the others were nowhere to be seen. Previously, they had clearly heard Lin Mingtao's suggestion to team up with Xiao Wenyu's group. Could it be that something had happened after that? Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest looked at one another, and Shangguan Yingying couldn't help chuckling. Maybe Su Yingshua's big missy's temper is too bad. She was angered to death by us and threw a tantrum again, so Lin Mingtao and the rest didn't want to bother with her. Mo Yunjue retracted his gaze and said in a low voice, Lin Mingtao must have refused to team up with them. Ao Lingxiao nodded. This Lin Mingtao should be a smart person. After assessing the situation, he felt that it wasn't worth it to offend you three Astral Radiance Realm experts for Su Yingxue and the rest, so he directly rejected the idea of forming a team. He even came to our side to let everyone know that he wasn't with Su Yingxue and the rest. Chapter 3963. It seems that this Lin Mingtao is also a shrewd person. Di Beichen said slowly. Ren Ziheng smiled and nodded. Lin Mingtao is indeed a very shrewd person. He always knows how to judge the situation. He will never do anything that harms his own interests. Although we all know this Lin Mingtao is indeed a good person, so his popularity in the inner palace of Penglai has always been quite good. I can see that. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. Although we know that he came to prove that point, we really don't have any ill feelings towards him. Because Lin Mingtao was showing that he was more inclined towards them. No one would have any ill feelings towards someone who expressed kindness to them. Ren Ziheng, what a coincidence. I didn't expect to meet you here again. Lin Mingtao pretended to be surprised and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. He slowly walked to them with a surprised smile on his face. Although Ren Ziheng had already guessed this, he didn't expose it. He immediately smiled and nodded. Yes, what a coincidence. Senior brother Lin, why didn't you team up with senior brother Xiao? Shangguan Yingying pretended to be curious and asked. She was really curious about how Lin Mingtao would answer. Hearing this, Lin Mingtao sighed and said, Since I saw the conflict between you and junior sister Su, I found that junior sister Su's temper is too bad. If we team up, I'm afraid it will cause a lot of trouble for no reason and affect the friendship with Xiao Wenyu. It's better not to team up. It's better, so I found a reason to leave first. I see. Shangguan Yingying nodded. Senior brother Lin, you are really smart. Fortunately you didn't team up. Otherwise there would be a lot of trouble. Yes, I can see that too. Lin Mingtao sighed. It's clear that you team up with them to help them. However, junior sister Su only throws a tantrum and doesn't know how to be grateful. I also feel that Huifan is helpless. However, junior sister Su has always been coaxed by everyone. I'm afraid she is used to it and forgot what situation she is in. As he said, Lin Mingtao couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang and said, Junior sister Bailey, don't be too angry. It's not good for your health. Just ignore it in the future. It's not worth it to be angry. Thank you for your concern, senior brother Lin. I understand. Bailey Hongzhuang showed a smile and cupped her hands. I didn't expect that it's already so late. We planned to stay here for the night, but we didn't expect to meet you. Was to meet you. If we encounter an army of skeletons, the more people we have, the safer we will be. We will leave tomorrow morning. Lin Mingtao suggested. He knew when to advance and when to retreat. On one hand, he let them feel relieved. On the other hand, he didn't want to offend Su Yingxue and the others. He knew that they might reject his suggestion to team up. Therefore, he directly suggested to team up for the night and leave tomorrow. This made it impossible for them to reject him. This method also didn't make them feel the slightest bit of ill will. It was really amazing. Chapter 3964. It was getting late and the skeleton army would appear soon. Even if they refused, Lin Mingtao and the others would not go far away. If they encountered the skeletons, they would have to face them together. It was better to form a team and express goodwill. Listening to Ren Ziheng's words, Lin Mingtao's face suddenly showed a smile. That's good. I didn't expect that I would be lucky enough to form a team with the most famous team in the inner hall. It would be something to be proud of. Senior brother Lin, you're too polite. Di Beichen said slowly, in terms of qualifications you are the senior. In terms of showing off it should be us showing off. Junior brother Di, you don't have to comfort me. I'm very clear about my own capabilities. Lin Mingtao chuckled. Although I have been in the Penglai Inner Hall for a long time, my achievements and gains are definitely incomparable to yours. I don't need to think to know that your future is limitless. If there is a good development in the future, I hope you can give me a chance. He had always known that this world looked at strength, not seniority. No matter how much seniority one had, if one did not have enough strength it would be useless. If he took advantage of his seniority in front of such potential cultivators, he would be digging his own grave. He would not be so stupid. Senior brother Lin, let's improve together. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Lin Mingtao nodded. Junior sister Bailey, what you said is right. Let's improve together. Night gradually fell, and the entire land was plunged into thick darkness. Everything around became quiet. There was no other sound except for the slight sound of the wind. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had a dignified look on their faces. They quietly looked around, guarding against the appearance of the skeleton army at any time. Everyone could not help but pay attention to their feet, afraid that the skeleton army would appear under their feet. If they were not careful, the possibility of losing their lives was very high. Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but look at Lin Mingtao and the others during this process. It turned out that all the cultivators who came to this training place would automatically fall into silence at night. Everyone showed the same expression. Come to think of it, this was the biggest characteristic of the training ground. However, after Bailey Hongzhuang and the others waited for a period of time, they discovered that there was no movement. There was also no sound in the surroundings. Everyone couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. Could it be that their luck today was so good that they didn't encounter the skeleton army? Senior apprentice brother Rin, didn't you say that it's easy to encounter the skeleton army here? How come we haven't met them since the first day we met them? Shengguan Yingying's face was full of confusion. She wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to gain experience and accumulate some points. She didn't expect the situation to be completely different from what she had imagined. Actually, Ren Ziheng is right. It is indeed very easy to encounter the skeleton army here. However, I have also discovered that the probability of encountering the skeleton army has decreased a lot over the past few days. In the past, if you were unlucky, you could encounter them every day. Therefore, very few cultivators dared to come here, Lin Mingtao said. Ren Ziheng nodded. The situation this time is indeed different from before. I don't know what the problem is. Chapter 3965. Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen, and Mo Yunjue couldn't help but look at each other. There must be a reason why the skeleton army, which had been appearing frequently before, suddenly didn't appear often now. There must be a reason. Could it be that these skeletons were evolving so the frequency of their appearance decreased a lot? Recalling their previous conjectures and connecting all these situations, there was a certain possibility. We didn't encounter the skeleton army here, but there should be in other places, right? When Xiren looked at Ren Ziheng and others, logically speaking, most of the skeleton army should have appeared at this time. Since we didn't appear here, does it mean that they won't appear? Hearing this, Ren Ziheng thought for a moment and looked at Lin Mingtao. He said, generally speaking, although the skeleton army may appear at any time, they still have a certain time pattern to their appearance. If they don't appear at this time, then the probability of them appearing will be much smaller. In that case, why don't we go to other places to take a look? Maybe we can encounter the skeleton army. When Xiren said. Shengguan Yingying nodded in agreement. Anyway, it's useless to stay here all the time. Why don't we go to other places to take a look? If we encounter the skeleton army, we can also take the opportunity to earn some points. What's more, there won't be any great danger approaching from the periphery. This should work. Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Ren Ziheng and others. Senior Ren, do you think this plan is feasible? Logically speaking, this is not a problem. Ren Ziheng responded. Indeed, we can go around. If we encounter the skeleton army, we can take the opportunity to deal with some of them. Chu Jinfeng nodded. It was already the 4th day since they came here. Except for the first day, they had been in a state of rest. He also wanted to exercise his muscles and bones. After all, they were not as afraid of the appearance of the skeleton army as before. On the contrary, with their current strength, they could already deal with most of the skeleton army, so they didn't need to hide at all. Instead, they could face them head-on. When Lin Mingtao and others saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and others wanted to find the skeleton army, they couldn't help but show a hint of surprise on their faces. A person with great skill would be bold. This saying was absolutely true. Many cultivators came to the training grounds because they had no other choice. On one hand, they wanted to earn points. On the other hand, they wanted to fulfill the sex requirements. However, after everyone arrived, they all hoped that they would not encounter the skeleton army. Teams like Bailey Hongzhuang and the others who were prepared to look for the skeleton army were extremely rare. So that's how it is. Let's move out then. Di Baichen made the final decision. His gaze then fell on Lin Mingtao. Senior brother Lin, we plan to take a look around. What are your plans? Lin Mingtao put away the surprised look on his face and smiled. We have already agreed before that we will team up tonight. So, wherever you go, we will naturally go with you. If we encounter the skeleton army, we can take care of each other. That's good. Di Baichen smiled. Let's go together. Chapter 3966. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest listened to their surroundings as they walked. They only hoped that they would be able to hear the movements of the skeleton army. Then they would have found their target. However, they had not heard any movements along the way and everyone could not help but feel disappointed. The skeleton army is usually so active. Why did they all hide when we wanted to earn some points? They really don't give us any face. Shangguan Yingying sighed. Junior sister Shangguan, if anyone else heard what you said, they would probably vomit 3 liters of blood. Lin Mingtao smiled. Why? Because comparisons are odious. Everyone could not help but chuckle when they heard this. Baisher walked next to Bailey Hongzhuang. Now Baisher's figure was even taller. Its white fur, which was mixed with the color of blood, made it look even more majestic. At first glance, one could tell that it was out of the ordinary. Lin Mingtao's group also had contracted beasts. However, none of them could compare to Baisher's majestic appearance. Master, there seems to be movement in front. Just then, Baisher's voice suddenly rang out next to Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang paused in her steps when she heard this. She looked at Baisher in astonishment and asked, "Are you sure?" Baisher nodded. "There's movement in front of us. If I'm not wrong, it should be the appearance of the skeleton army." Bailey Hongzhuang had no doubts when she saw how certain Baisher was. In terms of perception, Baisher was the most powerful. Baisher had never made a mistake in this aspect. Since it said that there was something, there must be something. Let's go ahead and take a look. Baisher says that there is a skeleton army there. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Baichen and the rest and shared this news with them. Really? Lin Mingtao asked in astonishment. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded gently. Baisher's words can't be wrong. Shangguan Yingying also spoke up. That's right, White Lion's judgment in this aspect is the most accurate. He has never been wrong before. It seems like there really is something interesting up ahead. Let's hurry over and take a look. Lin Mingtao's gaze could not help but land on Baisher. His eyes were filled with amazement. Junior sister Bailey, your contracted beast looks extraordinary at first glance. I didn't expect its perception to be so powerful. It's really amazing. From the moment he saw Baisher, Lin Mingtao had already noticed it. It was impossible not to notice such a majestic contract beast. The White Lion is indeed very talented in this aspect, especially in places like the forest or training grounds. Its judgment is much more accurate than ours. The White Lion was a beast king in the first place and had an innate ability in this aspect. Even if they had broken through to the Starlight Realm, they still could not compare to it. I see. Lin Mingtao nodded and immediately said, then let's go ahead and take a look. If we encounter a skeleton army, we can earn more points. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest increased their speed and flew ahead. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest turned into a gust of wind and disappeared from their original spot at lightning speed. As expected, as they got closer and closer to the front, they also felt the intense fluctuations. Chapter 3967. However, when Bailey Hongzhuang's people saw the situation in front of them, they couldn't help but be stunned again. No way, how can it be so coincidental? Shangguan Yingying secretly clicked her tongue. Wasn't this coincidence too exaggerated? If it wasn't for her and Xiren's suggestion, she would have suspected that someone had arranged this on purpose. Not only Shangguan Yingying, but Bailey Hongzhuang's people were also speechless after seeing the situation. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. This sentence really makes sense. At this moment, Ao Lingxiao couldn't help but sigh. In their line of sight, Xiao Wenyu's group was surrounded by the skeleton army. At this moment they were struggling to hold on. It was obvious that they were no match for the skeleton army. Without any help they could lose their lives at any time. Seeing this scene, I seemed to recall the situation on the first day of the training ground. Chu Jinfeng was speechless. Apart from the change of location, this scene was exactly the same as when they rescued Xiao Wenyu's group. Hong Zhuang, do you think senior brother Zhao's group is so unlucky because of suing Xue? Shengguan Yingying looked helpless. We've been looking for the skeletons but nothing happened. Senior brother Zhao's group only wanted to avoid the skeletons, but they were surrounded by them every time. I think they must be very depressed. I'm afraid no one else has such luck. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. This should be what they were afraid of, but when it came they couldn't avoid it. After seeing this scene, Lin Mingtao's expression was a little funny. This world was too coincidental. Even he found it hard to believe. However, after seeing this scene no one moved. They just looked at Xiao Wenyu's group who were fighting with the skeletons in front of them. Thousands of thoughts ran through their minds. Lin Mingtao had already made up his mind. Since he decided to get close to Bailey Hongzhuang's group, this idea wouldn't waver. Unless Bailey Hongzhuang's group suggested it, he would definitely not take the initiative to rescue Xiao Wenyu's group. This was because all his previous efforts would be in vain. Therefore he and his team just stood there and waited for Bailey Hongzhuang and the others to make a decision. The feelings of Ren Ziheng and the rest were also very complicated. Previously they had saved Suing Xue and the rest because of their friendship as fellow disciples. Never had they expected that not only would Suing Xue not be grateful, she would even bite the hand that fed her. That was too much. Even they didn't know what to do now. For a moment, Ren Ziheng and the others couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. The person Suing Xue had offended was Bailey Hongzhuang, so how this matter should be decided was naturally up to Bailey Hongzhuang. Feeling everyone's attention, Bailey Hongzhuang's dark eyes flashed with a hint of contemplation, but her beautiful face was very calm. Let's go back, Bailey Hongzhuang said faintly. Previously she had already done her best to rescue Suing Xue and the rest. Now that things had come to this, it could be said that they had brought it upon themselves. There was really no need for her to do anything. Moreover, she didn't think that she was a kind person. She wouldn't rescue people again and again. Whether they lived or died didn't matter to her at all. Chapter 3968. Xiao Wenyu was so depressed that he was about to die. He felt that the possibility of encountering skeletons inside was very high, so he decided to head to the periphery. This way their safety would be increased by a lot. According to their speed they should be able to walk a very long distance in such a long time, but Suing Xue and He Bingrui were clearly in a bad mood so their walking speed was very slow. Although he showed that he was unwilling to pay attention to them, they were still members of the team no matter what. Furthermore, there were only 6 of them left. If they didn't have Suing Xue and He Bingrui with them, it would be difficult for the 4 of them to leave the training ground. Under such circumstances they didn't walk far, but they didn't expect their luck to be so bad that they would encounter the skeleton army at night. 2 days ago they had been following Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest, hoping to encounter the skeleton army and earn some points, but they didn't get any. Now that they had separated from them, they coincidentally encountered the skeleton army, so one could imagine how depressed they were. With such a large skeleton army, it would be difficult for the 6 of them to deal with it. He only wanted to get out of this predicament, but the speed at which the skeletons appeared was too fast so he couldn't make it in time. At this moment Xiao Wenyu suddenly noticed Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest rushing over, and his eyes instantly lit up. At the same time he also noticed that Lin Mingtao and the rest were together with Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest. He couldn't help but be astonished. Could it be that after Lin Mingtao separated from them, he went to find Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest? This was too unbelievable. Thinking of this he wanted to ask Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest for help, but before he could say anything he saw Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest preparing to leave. Seeing this scene his heart couldn't help but turn cold. It seemed that Suing Xue's previous actions had really offended Bailey Hongzhuang. Now that they were in danger, Bailey Hongzhuang was also planning to leave them in the lurch. This was hope that they had encountered with great difficulty. If Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest left just like that, they wouldn't be able to break out of the encirclement and could only lose their lives here. Thinking of this, even though he found it hard to speak, Xiao Wenyu still shouted, "Junior sister Bailey, help us." Following Xiao Wenyu's words, Suing Xue then realized that Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest were not far in front of them, and her expression instantly became complicated. She didn't expect to meet them at this moment, and this coincidence made her feel indescribably gloomy. If he wasn't in a difficult situation, he simply wouldn't want to pay attention to Bailey Hongzhuang. But now that he was in danger, if he was a little careless, he might lose his life. But if he spoke, it would be really shameful. After hearing Xiao Wenyu's words, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but pause slightly, but she didn't answer. Ying Xue quickly asked them for help. Yi Bingrui hurriedly shouted. Her face was pale, and she couldn't hold on under the encirclement of the skeleton army. There were wounds all over her body and she could die at any moment. However, Su Yingxue didn't reply. Yingxue, if you don't ask them for help, we will lose our lives here. Yi Bingrui hurriedly shouted. Chapter 3969. Su Yingxue originally didn't want to lower her head, but the situation was indeed life-threatening. Even if she didn't want to lower her head, she had no choice. Thus, she could only cry out unwillingly, "Junior Sister Bailey, please save us." Following Su Yingxue's words, Bailey Hongzhuang stopped in her tracks and her gaze landed on the skeleton army. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's actions, Shangguan Yingying and the rest couldn't help but be astonished. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang was really planning to save Su Yingxue? Although Su Yingxue was the one who had called for help, according to their understanding of Bailey Hongzhuang, this shouldn't be her personality. She had always been a person of her word. Since she had made a decision, she definitely wouldn't change it. When Su Yingxue and the rest saw Bailey Hongzhuang, who was originally preparing to leave, suddenly stop because of her cry for help, intense joy couldn't help but appear in their eyes. Yingxue, Bailey Hongzhuang has agreed to save us. Intense joy flashed across Yi Bingrui's face. She originally thought that her luck wasn't good today and she was going to lose her life here. She didn't expect that at such a crucial moment, there would be a turn for the better. This made her extremely happy. Su Yingxue's face also revealed a trace of a smile. She couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang with an additional trace of disdain. She didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to think so highly of her. She had only called for help and the former had stopped in his tracks. This didn't make her feel that she had lost face. Instead, she felt that she had gained some face. Hongzhuang, what do you plan to do? Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but ask. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze landed behind Su Yingxue. This was because he realized that there was a type of small black flower growing out of the skeleton army. In the past, he had never seen such a small flower appear when the skeleton army appeared. All along, he had been searching for the plants that appeared in the training grounds, but he hadn't found anything. After searching for a period of time, he was even more certain that this training ground was completely barren. He couldn't find any trace of plants at all. Just when she thought that her judgment might be wrong, she suddenly discovered that there were actually black flowers appearing in the places where the skeleton army appeared. This made her eyes light up. Perhaps this was what she had been looking for all this while. Everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's silent appearance and thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was considering whether to save them or not. Di Beichen couldn't help but follow Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze and saw Su Yingxue first. However, he understood Bailey Hongzhuang too well. Bailey Hongzhuang definitely wouldn't have any sympathy for someone like Su Yingxue, so she naturally wouldn't stop because of her cry for help. Therefore, something else must have attracted Bailey Hongzhuang's attention. After carefully observing for a while, Di Beichen also discovered the small black flower. This small flower wasn't very obvious in the darkness and was blocked by so many skeletons. If it wasn't for the fact that they were on high ground, they wouldn't have been able to discover the existence of the small black flower. Thinking about what Bailey Hongzhuang had been looking for recently, perhaps this small black flower was the catalyst. At this moment, Di Beichen already understood. Looks like my wife has found what she wanted. Beichenchen's lips curled into a charming arc as he smiled faintly. Chapter 3970. You really know me well. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Her expression was filled with joy and pride. In this world, it was a great joy to have someone who could understand her so well. Of course. Di Beichen raised his eyebrows and held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. He then walked forward. Since we've discovered her, let's take action. We can't miss this opportunity. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded gently and her footsteps became firm. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's actions, Shangguan Yingying and the rest could not help but feel puzzled. What are Di Beichen and Hongzhuang trying to do? Ren Zime and the rest were also puzzled. They could not understand what they were trying to do. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen had such tacit understanding. It was as if this was something that could be easily seen through. However, they could not understand what was going on. Then what should we do? Rin Zime spread out her hands and looked inquisitively at Xiren. I don't know. Xiren shrugged. Let's follow them and find out. Hong Zhuang won't save Suing Shue. Mo Yunjue slowly said, if they're going over now, they must have discovered something. That's why they're doing this. Although he did not know what Bailey Hongzhuang had seen, he was certain that his judgment was correct. Hearing Mo Yunjue's words, Shangguan Yingying nodded. I think so too. Suing Shue is so annoying. She'll only have peace if she's dead. Although Lin Mingtao and the rest did not understand what was going on, since Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest had gone over, they naturally followed them to take a look. No matter what choice Bailey Hongzhuang made, they were willing to help. We're saved. We're saved. Originally, He Bingrue had been bitterly holding on, as if she could no longer hold on in the next moment, and could lose her life at any time. However, when she saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had decided to help, she only felt that her body was filled with strength, and she immediately forced the surrounding skeletons to disperse. Xiao Wenyu and the others also showed a relaxed expression. Originally, when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang and the others turn around and leave, their hearts turned cold. They thought that they would have to accompany these skeletons forever in the future. They didn't expect that there would be such a favorable turn in the end. How could they not be happy? However, Xiao Wenyu still had some doubts in his heart. It was hard to imagine that Bailey Hongzhuang actually stopped because of Suing Shue's cry for help. It was truly unbelievable. As Bailey Hongzhuang got closer, she saw the little black flower clearly. The flower had a total of 5 petals and was very small. In this pitch-black darkness, it was not eye-catching at all. If she hadn't coincidentally discovered Xiaohua today, perhaps no one would have noticed Xiaohua's appearance when they were surrounded by the army of skeletons on a normal day. This little flower grew in the places where the skeleton soldiers appeared. In this lifeless darkness, it swayed and was filled with a mysterious power. Beichen, do you think this little black flower has existed before? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly and tilted her head to look at Di Beichen. Di Beichen thought for a moment. According to this situation, I'm afraid it has always existed. It's just that we didn't notice it. Chapter 3971. Di Beichen nodded. It's not impossible. Every time the skeleton army appears, everyone is thinking of ways to deal with the skeleton army and no one has the time to pay attention to anything else. Furthermore, no one would have thought that this plant would actually grow in a place where the skeleton army appears. It's normal that we didn't notice it. Di Beichen's eyes flashed with a sigh. If they hadn't coincidentally discovered it today, they wouldn't have noticed the difference in the place where the skeleton soldiers appeared. These little black flowers appeared next to the skeleton soldiers, one after another. There were quite a number of them. However, hidden in the darkness, it was easy to miss them. These little black flowers are really strange. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned, her dark eyes flashing with confusion. After the skeleton army disappeared, these little black flowers would also disappear. That's why we didn't notice them. That's right, these little black flowers follow the skeleton army. The things in the training grounds are really mysterious. Even these plants are different. Di Beichen sighed. Beichen, what are you talking about? Regarding this matter, what do you plan to do? When Xiren and the rest quickly caught up. When they saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen stop, they couldn't help but ask. Di Beichen smiled faintly. We didn't come down here to save people. When he said this, Lin Mingtao and the rest were slightly stunned. Mo Yunjue, when Xiren and the rest revealed a knowing smile. Look, are there black flowers next to the skeleton soldiers? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Hearing this, everyone was slightly stunned. Their gazes then turned towards the skeleton soldiers. When they saw it, everyone's faces were filled with surprise. That's right, there really are black flowers. Shangguan Yingying exclaimed, You can see this too? I didn't even notice that there were flowers on the ground. Ren Ziheng's face was filled with amazement. I've stayed in this training ground for so long, but I've never noticed that when the skeleton soldiers appeared, there would be black flowers below. If you hadn't reminded me, I don't know when I would have discovered this. Yeah, we've never noticed it before. Did it just appear now or has it always been there before? Ren Zime couldn't help but wonder. She had never discovered this before. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. I don't know. I didn't notice it the first 2 times. But when I was standing on the hillside just now, I happened to notice the little black flower. I was very surprised. Junior sister Bailey, could this little black flower be the catalyst that you're looking for? Chu Jinfeng's eyes lit up. During this time they had been helping Bailey Hongzhuang search for the guiding medicine, but they had not found anything. They had even thought that this training ground was completely barren and that it was impossible for any guiding medicine to appear. They never thought that a black flower would appear. This was the only plant that they had seen in this training ground. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a small smile. I had the same guess, but I'm not sure if it's true. We'll only know after we bring it back. Chapter 3972. Indeed. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. This was also one of the problems she was thinking about. Wife, I'll go with you. With our battle power, it shouldn't be a problem to go deep into that place, Di Beichen said slowly. I'll go with you guys too. Mo Yunjue also said, that place is very close to the center and it's more dangerous. Although the two of you aren't weak, if you're surrounded, there's still a certain amount of risk. If I go with you guys, it'll be much safer. As for the others, don't go any deeper. Hearing Mo Yunjue's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. Di Beichen then said, all right, then it's decided. The next moment, Di Beichen turned around and looked at Ren Ziheng and the rest. The three of us will go to the center to pick the black flower. You guys deal with the skeletons outside. Then you guys have to be careful. Ren Ziheng's face was filled with concern. It's very dangerous inside. Don't worry, we'll be careful. When Xiao Wenyu and the rest saw Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest coming down, they were hoping that they could quickly rescue them. However, they realized that they had stopped and didn't come to rescue them immediately. They couldn't help but feel astonished. Thinking of this, Xiao Wenyu couldn't help but shout, Ren Ziheng, come and help us. Now that they were deeply surrounded by the skeleton army, everyone was gradually scattered by the skeleton army. They weren't together at all. One could imagine how difficult it was for one person to face the pressure of skeletons from all directions. Even though he had already used all his skills, he still felt that it was extremely difficult. The long battle had even created a feeling that it was difficult to continue. Hearing Xiao Wenyu's words, Ren Ziheng couldn't help but frown. In fact, it was Suing Xue and Xiao Wenyu who had been fooling around. Xiao Wenyu and the rest didn't do anything wrong. It was a pity that they were now implicated by Suing Xue and Xiao Wenyu. The last time he rescued them, he had already brought a lot of trouble to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. This time he couldn't repeat the same mistake. He felt very troubled in his heart. Bailey Hongzhuang, who was about to set off, noticed this scene and couldn't help but say, Senior Brother Ren, go and help Senior Brother Xiao. Hearing this, Ren Ziheng was slightly stunned. He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment, as if doubting if he had heard wrongly. Senior Brother Xiao's condition is very bad. I'm afraid he won't be able to hold on for much longer. If we don't go and help, we'll lose our lives here. Bailey Hongzhuang spoke again. Knowing that he did not hear wrongly, Ren Ziheng also nodded his head, his brows filled with joy. I'll go help immediately. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Although she didn't have much sympathy, she wouldn't casually implicate others. From the beginning to the end, Senior Brother Xiao didn't show any hostility towards her. On the contrary, she also felt that Senior Brother Xiao was a very easy person to get along with. It was just that with Suing Xue's existence, Senior Brother Xiao was stuck in the middle. Now that Senior Brother Xiao was in danger, she naturally didn't mind lending a helping hand. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's actions, everyone knew what to do. Her attitude was very simple, which was to ignore Suing Xue and He Bingrui. As for the others, they could save them. Chapter 3973. The next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue set off in the direction of the skeleton soldier. They had originally planned to ignore Suing Xue, but the skeleton soldier was right behind her, so they still had to head in that direction. When Suing Xue saw that Mo Yunjue and Bailey Hongzhuang had also come to rescue her, she couldn't help but be overjoyed. Even though she felt that Mo Yunjue's previous actions were overboard, she still couldn't help but feel her heart flutter when she saw his handsome face. This kind of man was simply every woman's dream lover. No matter how heartless he was, he still moved people's hearts. Bingrui, let's hold on a little longer. Mo Yunjue and the rest are about to come and save us, Suing Xue said emotionally. He Bingrui nodded. I didn't think that he would still be willing to come and save us at this time. Looks like he's not that heartless after all. I don't understand either. Suing Xue's face revealed a vexed expression. She really couldn't understand Mo Yunjue. Every time she was about to lose all hope, he would suddenly give her some hope. It really made her feel vexed. As Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest got closer and closer to Suing Xue and He Bingrui, the two of them also became more and more excited. As cultivators of the Starlight Realm, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest cleared the area with just one move. The effect was very shocking. The surrounding skeletons fell in large batches. The three beasts and Di Beichen's contracted beasts also helped to clean up the area, so the three of them didn't slow down at all. However, just when Suing Xue and He Bingrui thought that Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest were coming to rescue them, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest just passed by them and walked behind them. Seeing this scene, Suing Xue and He Bingrui were stunned. Their eyes were filled with astonishment as they wondered if they had seen wrongly. However, reality told them that they were not wrong. This was because Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two had turned around when they were still tens of meters away from them. Very soon, they realized that the other party had already started fighting with the skeleton soldiers. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two fought with the skeleton soldiers while the four contracted beasts took the opportunity to pluck the black flowers. It was most convenient for Xiao He and Xiao Bai to pick them up. After picking them off, they directly put them into their Qingkuan bags. When he looked at it from afar, he did not notice it. However, when he looked closer, he realized that there were many black flowers. He immediately picked them quickly. If this thing was the medicinal catalyst, then they would need quite a lot of it. How could this be? Suing Xue looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two in a daze, unable to react in time. On the other side, Xiao Wenyu and the others had clearly been rescued, but the two of them were left unattended. Ying Xue, what's going on? He Bingrui was also dumbfounded. She had barely managed to hold on until Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest got close, so why didn't the other party have any intention of rescuing them? I don't know either. Suing Xue's expression was a little ugly. A feeling faintly flashed in her mind. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang had purposely come here to humiliate her and not to rescue them, but to provoke her? If that was really the case, then her joy just now was just wishful thinking. Chapter 3974. Hearing He Bingrui's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two couldn't help but turn their gazes over. When they saw He Bingrui's anxious expression, they found it funny. He Bingrui, it's already extremely benevolent of me to not kill you. Do you still think I will save you? Di Beichen's eyes were indifferent as he looked at He Bingrui and Xiao Wenyu. If it weren't for Ren Ziheng and Xiao Wenyu's face, he would have directly dealt with the two people who spoke rudely to Bailey Hongzhuang. Mo Yunjue also calmly retracted his gaze. The evils we bring upon ourselves are the hardest to bear. The two of them loved to fool around, and even though they were spared, they still couldn't escape the fate of death. It was obvious that even the heavens wanted them dead. Suing Xue and He Bingrui, who were originally filled with hope, turned pale when they heard Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue's words. Their expressions were extremely ugly. All of their hope turned into bubbles in an instant, and an indescribable despair spread out in their hearts. They were already at the end of their rope. It was only because they saw a glimmer of hope that they unleashed all of their strength. However, once they lost the support from behind, only death awaited them. How could this be? Suing Xue looked at Mo Yunjue in a daze. The latter's words were no different from stabbing a knife into her heart. All of her infatuation had turned into pain. She was actually such a loathsome person in this man's heart. Ying Xue, what should we do? If this goes on, we will die. He Bingrui looked at Suing Xue helplessly, and she felt a wave of regret. If they had known this would be the outcome, they wouldn't have treated Bailey Hongzhuang like that. Otherwise, they wouldn't have ended up in such a state. If they had teamed up with Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest, not only would they not have been in any danger, they could even earn a large amount of points. Normally, they wouldn't have had such a good opportunity. However, all of this had been destroyed by these beasts with their own hands. Only then did Suing Xue come back to her senses, and she couldn't help but look forward. When she noticed that Xiao Wenyu and the rest had been rescued, she couldn't help but shout, "Senior brother Xiao, quickly save us. We can't hold on much longer." Only then did He Bingrui remember that Xiao Wenyu and the others were still here. She immediately shouted, "Senior brother Xiao, I beg you." Xiao Wenyu and the rest who were already in a safe place had complicated expressions when they heard Suing Xue and He Bingrui's cries for help. For a moment they just stood on the spot and didn't move. Shangguan Yingying glanced at Xiao Wenyu's group and said, "We won't stop you if you want to rescue them. However, don't expect us to help you if you encounter danger again." They had saved Xiao Wenyu and the rest on account that they hadn't done anything wrong. However, they didn't have any sympathy for Suing Xue and the rest. If Xiao Wenyu and the rest insisted on staying with Suing Xue and Suing Xue, they wouldn't bother with them anymore. Xiao Wenyu and the others weren't fools. They naturally knew the attitude of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. If they went there now, then they would really offend Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. One had to know that this was the second time he had saved their lives. Ren Ziheng and the rest didn't say anything. This matter had to be decided by Xiao Wenyu and the rest. However, Xiao Wenyu and the rest stood on the spot and didn't go forward to rescue them. This action had already made their stance clear. Chapter 3975. Suing Xue and He Bingrui had placed all their hopes on Xiao Wenyu. He was their last hope. However, when they saw Xiao Wenyu's indifference, their hearts gradually turned cold. His attitude was very clear, and that was that he would not come to save them. A strong hatred spread in Suing Xue's heart. It was all because of Bailey Hongzhuang. If it wasn't for that damned Bailey Hongzhuang, things wouldn't have ended up like this. Bailey Hongzhuang, it's all because of you. Suing Xue glared at Bailey Hongzhuang hatefully, her eyes flashing with anger and jealousy. She had only verbally offended Bailey Hongzhuang, which wasn't a big deal, but it was enough to force her to such a state. What right did she have? Hearing Suing Xue's angry words, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but turn her head. Compared to the former's hysteria, she was calm and indifferent. I said before, you will be taught a lesson. Facing Bailey Hongzhuang's nonchalant words, Suing Xue was unable to restrain her anger. She immediately wanted to charge in Bailey Hongzhuang's direction. I'm going to kill you. However, just as Suing Xue was about to move in Bailey Hongzhuang's direction, she suddenly felt a sharp pain in her body. She lowered her head in a daze and realized that her chest had been pierced by a sharp sword. She looked at He Bingrui, who was behind her, in astonishment, her face filled with disbelief. Bingrui, you. Suing Xue pointed at He Bingrui, unable to recover from the shock. She had no idea why He Bingrui would treat her like this. What? He Bingrui pulled out her sharp sword. Facing Suing Xue's question, she could only remain silent. She then turned her gaze to Bailey Hongzhuang. Junior sister Bailey, I've already killed Suing Xue for you. Can you let me live? Suing Xue fell to the ground with a loud bang and was immediately torn into pieces by the skeletons that rushed up. Before she died, her eyes were still glaring at He Bingrui. Obviously, she had never thought that her most trusted friend would stab her with a sword. This feeling of betrayal made her extremely uncomfortable. This scene was clearly beyond everyone's expectations. No one thought that He Bingrui would do such a thing in order to save her own life. For a moment, everyone only felt that this He Bingrui was also an extremely terrifying person. That was her best friend. Previously, the two of them had been fighting against a common enemy. However, at this moment of life and death, she had gone overboard. After seeing this scene, everyone suddenly felt that although Suing Xue's temper was annoying, people like He Bingrui were more terrifying. He betrayed them without hesitation. Who would dare to be teammates with such a person? He had to be prepared to be betrayed at any time. Everyone couldn't help but look at Xiao Wenyu. They didn't know how he felt as the captain. Xiao Wenyu instantly broke out in cold sweat. He had been teammates with He Bingrui for such a long time, but he had never known that He Bingrui had such a personality. He couldn't help but feel a lingering fear. Junior sister Bailey, I beg you. I don't want to die. He Bingrui shouted. The skeletons in front of her made her feel despair. With just her strength, it was impossible for her to walk out. Chapter 3976. If He Bingrui had persisted until the end with Suing Xue, perhaps she would have admired her. However, her current actions had undoubtedly proved that He Bingrui was truly a despicable person. Such a person's death was not to be regretted. As Bailey Hongzhuang's voice fell, He Bingrui's face also showed a deep sense of despair. She originally thought that by helping Bailey Hongzhuang to vent her anger, the latter would let her off. She never thought that she would not achieve the effect she wanted. Ah! A blood-curdling scream came from He Bingrui's mouth. The surrounding skeletons had already closed in on her and directly broke her arm. Bailey Hongzhuang retracted her gaze. Sometimes, if you take a wrong step, you can never turn back. Even if He Bingrui regretted it now, it was useless because such an ending was destined from the start. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two were quickly surrounded by the skeleton army. The skeleton army was very strong, but the three of them were not weak either. Therefore, even though they were surrounded, they did not show any signs of being unable to fight back. The others fought with the skeleton army at the periphery, taking advantage of this opportunity to earn more points. However, everyone's gaze still fell on Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two. Once they discovered that they were in danger, they would definitely go to their aid at the first moment. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two's strength was very strong. After plucking a certain number of black flowers, they did not continue to stay and immediately retreated to the periphery. Only when they reached the periphery did everyone heave a sigh of relief. You guys came back safe and sound. At least there was no danger. Shengguan Yingying sighed. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Yes, we came back safe and sound. Even though they were not weak under such a high-intensity battle, the consumption of their primary energy was very shocking. Therefore, it was not suitable for them to drag on for too long. When the skeleton army saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest had returned safely, they were obviously very dissatisfied. Immediately, they launched a wave of attacks towards Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest. However, their team today could be said to be extraordinarily large. There were no less than 20 experts present. Even if the skeleton army launched an attack, they were still unable to seriously injure them. Following the failure of 2 consecutive attacks, the night was already half over, and the skeleton army gradually left. After the skeleton army left, Bailey Hongzhuang took a closer look. Sure enough, after the skeleton army disappeared, the black flower disappeared as well. It was as if it had never appeared. Those guys are finally gone. I'm so tired. Shengguan Yingying sat limply on the ground, rubbing her other arm with one hand. She had been waving her sword the whole night and her arm was sore. Xiren sat down beside Shengguan Yingying and began to massage her shoulders. You can have a good rest now. Bailey Hongzhuang also sat down. She did not feel very tired. This kind of intensity was already a routine reform for her, so she did not feel that it was too tiring. I really didn't expect Suing Xue to die in the hands of He Bingrue. This ending really makes one sigh. Shengguan Yingying couldn't help but shake her head. Her face was full of emotions. In the end, even she was shocked. Chapter 3977. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately took out the black flower she had plucked earlier. She was very curious about the black flower and wanted to know if it was the catalyst she had been looking for all this time. If it was, then the power of darkness would no longer be a threat to them in the future. Ren Ziheng and the others were currently using Bailey Hongzhuang's medicine. No matter how careful they were, they could not avoid injuries after a night of battle. When he saw Bailey Hongzhuang examine the black flower, Lin Mingtao could not help but ask, "Junior Sister Bailey, is the catalyst you've been looking for this black flower?" Bailey Hongzhuang withdrew her gaze from the black flower and turned to look at Lin Mingtao. She shook her head. "I can't be sure right now. I need some time to study the characteristics of the black flower before I can determine it." Understood. Lin Mingtao nodded and smiled in admiration. "Junior Sister Bailey's eyesight is really good. You even noticed such a rare black flower. I've been training here for so long but I've never noticed it. My eyesight is really bad." "Lin Mingtao, you're right. I've been here for so long but I've never noticed it," sighed Ren Ziheng. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled when she heard that. "You're not doctors, so of course you wouldn't pay special attention to these things. It's just that I've been looking for it the entire time, which is why I noticed it today. If the black flower really is a catalyst for restraining the power of darkness, then that's interesting. So many people from the 100 Flowers sect have been searching for a catalyst here, but they've never found anything. Junior Sister Bailey, you've only been here for the second time, and you've already discovered it. I'm sure they'll be furious when they find out." Chu Jinfeng seemed to have thought of something funny and could not help but chuckle. Everyone present could not help but chuckle when they heard Chu Jinfeng's words. It was just as Chu Jinfeng had said. If Bailey Hongzhuang had found it so easily, then the people from the 100 Flowers sect would indeed be depressed to death. The sky gradually brightened. After recovering her Yuan Qi, Bailey Hongzhuang did not plan on going anywhere else. She focused all her attention on the black flower. She had a vague premonition that the thing she was looking for was this black flower. "Ren Ziheng, Junior Sister Bailey, thank you so much for your help yesterday. You've already saved us twice. I will never forget the favor of saving my life." Xiao Wenyu cupped his fists and bowed deeply to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. After being rescued the last time, he had been thinking about how he could repay this kindness. He never thought that before he could repay the previous kindness, he would be rescued by Bailey Hongzhuang and the others again. "Senior brother Xiao, don't worry about it. It's only right for fellow disciples to help each other," Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. I didn't expect you to save me twice in such a short period of time. I feel extremely ashamed. Xiao Wenyu sighed. His expression was filled with helplessness. Xiao Wenyu, don't take it to heart. In this training ground we have always helped each other. This time I will help you. Next time you can help me, Ren Ziheng said with a smile. Xiao Wenyu smiled and nodded. If you need my help in the future, just let me know. Chapter 3978. Ren Zimei couldn't help but look at Xiao Wenyu. Originally, it was already very dangerous with only 6 people in their team. Now that they had lost 2 people, the 4 of them might not be able to hold on until they returned. Hearing Ren Zimei's words, Xiao Wenyu's expression was a little awkward. This was a big problem that he had been thinking about. Before Suing Xue made a scene, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had already agreed to form a team with them until they left. However, after that incident, he didn't have the face to mention it again. However, now that there were only 4 people left in their team, what should they do was really a big problem. This. Xiao Wenyu said awkwardly, I don't know what to do for the time being. If senior brother Xiao doesn't mind, then form a team with us and go back when the teleportation formation opens, Di Beichen suddenly said. Hearing this, Xiao Wenyu and the others couldn't help but look at Di Beichen in surprise. They didn't expect Di Beichen to be willing to help them now. The next moment, the 4 of them couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. If Bailey Hongzhuang didn't want to, they naturally wouldn't stay here shamelessly. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded indifferently. Senior brother Xiao, if you don't mind, then stay. Shengguan Yingying and the others also nodded. They had a very good impression of Xiao Wenyu and the others. The 4 of them weren't pretentious and didn't put on airs. No matter what happened, they had a lot of discussion and were very respectful to them. Forming a team with them was just for convenience and wouldn't drag them down. Now that they were going to stay in Penglai Palace for a while, there was no harm in making more friends. Xiao Wenyu and the others looked at each other and smiled happily. Thank you very much. At this time Lin Mingtao also stood up and said, It's already dawn. We'll leave first. Lin Mingtao, you're leaving? Xiao Wenyu looked at Lin Mingtao in surprise. He thought that Lin Mingtao and Bailey Hongzhuang had already formed a team. He didn't expect Lin Mingtao to leave at dawn. Not bad. Lin Mingtao smiled and nodded. Yesterday I happened to meet Ren Ziheng and the others, so we temporarily formed a team. We said that it was only a temporary team. Now that the sun has risen, we naturally won't continue to disturb you. Listening to Lin Mingtao's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but look at him with a bit more appreciation. Ren Ziheng's previous judgment was really correct. This Lin Mingtao was really a shrewd person. His way of dealing with people made people feel very comfortable. Ren Ziheng, junior brother D, farewell. Lin Mingtao cupped his fists and said. The cultivators behind him also said, farewell. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also stood up and cupped their hands. Goodbye, take care. Take care. Then Lin Mingtao and his group slowly disappeared from the sight of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Bailey Hongzhuang continued to sit down. She needed some time to study this black flower. Let's stay here and cultivate today. Hongzhuang wants to study the characteristics of this black flower. It's not too late for us to act when the skeleton army appears at night, Di Beichen said slowly. No problem. Ren Ziheng nodded. Anyway, it's the same no matter where during the day. We might as well save our energy. Xiao Wenyu, what do you think? Chapter 3979. Bailey Hongzhuang focused all her attention on researching the black flower. This was the first time she had seen such a flower and there were no records of it in the medical books. Hence, she would need some time to understand the characteristics of the black flower. After Bailey Hongzhuang focused on researching the black flower, everyone else also focused on meditating and cultivating. After the great battle last night, taking advantage of this time to cultivate would greatly increase their powers. Time slowly passed and before they knew it, it was already evening. When the 3 beasts saw that Bailey Hongzhuang had been researching the flower, they could not help but come closer. Master, how's your research coming along? At the moment I've discovered some characteristics, but there are still many things that we don't know. It's not something that can be figured out in a short period of time. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly replied. Can this black flower be used as a medicinal ingredient? Baisher asked curiously. Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment before nodding. It should be possible. There are also some special substances in it that I've never seen before. It's really interesting. Ever since she had arrived at this training ground, she had realized that everything that had appeared in this place was very foreign to her. Even the things that the black flower contained were things that she had never understood before. Just this point alone was already very shocking. After all, in order to study medicine, she had read through almost all the medical books. As long as it was about medicinal ingredients, there was almost nothing that she did not understand. Now, she had actually seen medicinal ingredients that she had never seen before. This was extremely rare. She believed that even if this black flower had fallen into the hands of the members of the 100 Flowers Order, they would not know anything about it either. The entire night was still peaceful. When Xiao Wenyu and the others realized this, they felt unusually helpless. Following beside Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, they were not worried about the appearance of the skeleton army. However, there was no trace of the skeleton army at all. When they had parted ways with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, they were worried that the skeleton army would appear. However, the skeleton army had appeared right where they were, making it impossible for them to hide. What kind of situation was this? In the following days, Bailey Hongzhuang continued to focus all her energy on studying the black flower. Every day there would be some new progress. Ren Ziheng and the others couldn't help but admire Bailey Hongzhuang when they saw how persistent she was in her research. No wonder Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills were so amazing. Just this kind of persistence was not something an ordinary person could have. Where there was a will, there was a way. Just by looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's perseverance, one could tell that there was nothing she couldn't accomplish. A few days later, they encountered the skeleton army again. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Bailey Hongzhuang plucked a lot of black flowers. Now, she was almost certain that this black flower was the catalyst that she had been looking for. As long as it was combined with a few other medicinal herbs, she believed that it would be able to effectively restrain the power of darkness. Who would have thought that the solution to the unbreakable power of darkness would be in the appearance of the black flower when the skeleton army appeared? Nature was indeed incomparably mysterious. Junior Sister Bailey, does this mean that you've already researched a medicine that can completely restrain the power of darkness? Xiao Wenyu looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. His heart was filled with shock. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.